today we are going live for a white hot wisdom chat, making truth sexy again. So for those of you who are joining us today, we'll be talking about white hot wisdom. We're gonna be making truth super sexy again. Chopping wood and carrying water can be sexy. We're going to be talking about keeping the path, whether you call it spirituality or awakening or whatever. We're going to talk about grounding that and keeping it real, and how we have to take full responsibility for whatever it is we want for ourselves. Kind of waiting and hoping and crossing our fingers that things show up, or just visualizing and manifesting and assuming that's going to work, or even like all the secrets that we hear about, just self-pleasuring your way to 6-figure or 7-figure or 8-figure or whatever success. There is more to it than that. And it doesn't mean that it's not fun or that it's not sexy, because it certainly is. It's just that there's more to it, right? There's more to the story. And so we want to tell the other half of the story. I'll go ahead and get started, and I'll talk about a little bit more about, I'll kind of open it up, and then Melanie and I can hopefully talk more thoroughly on it. But I wanted to start doing these chats because I wanted to start bringing attention to the things that aren't highlighted. Okay, so we see a lot of things out there, and people can kind of think that maybe Errity is anti so many things. Gosh, Errity is always anti 6 figures. That's not true. Clearly. It would be. Errity is anti self-pleasure, or self-pleasuring your way to success. Or Errity is anti the idea of selling, the idea of making money, right? Errity is anti a lot of things. Some people have even said, like, they've made comments about, just owning my truth without having to speak to the other truths that I sort of contrast with. And I agree with that. I can see the value in that. And I don't know if that's my makeup. In fact, and I've even heard of human design. It's a part of someone with an empty will center. So I find myself through what I am not. And I'm not saying that's 100% true or always true, but I know for a fact that for most of my life, I have been able to find who I am by what I am not. And if you have an undefined will center, you might resonate with that. And I'm also not saying that human design has all the answers, nor that I even subscribe to it or follow it very well. Someone has pointed that out to me before, because I've been like, wow, this is kind of how I operate in the world. And they then were like, oh yeah, you have an undefined will center. And I'm like, what? Okay, fine. So now I get it. It kind of helps me make sense of things. But you know what? We don't always have to make sense of things. Thank you, Deborah. Exactly. Keeping us grounded. Someone's got to do it. It's a hard job, but someone's got to do it. And that's the thing, is like, I never want to be the person that just because I'm anti certain things, that it comes across that I don't believe in possibility or that I don't believe in potential. Because especially anybody who knows me closely, intimately, knows that I only see potential, almost to a fault. I can see someone's best traits, best gifts, what's possible in the house, what's possible for me, for the kid, for all the things, almost to the point of what you could call perfectionism, or to a fault, such that it can become sort of not harmful, but maybe harmful. And so, because, in my close relationships, that's actually how I come across. I believe in people. I believe in what's possible. I believe in their vision. And I think the difference is, in my personal life, I'm not coming across all the flashing lights, or like or flashy lights, I guess is better said, or the shiny objects. Flashing lights and shiny objects. I'm not encountering that in my everyday life, where people are like, hey, Errity, you want 6-figure success just by self-pleasuring your way all the way there? I don't see that. So I have no reason to speak to it or say anything about it, It's just online. And of course, why? Why do we see it only online, or primarily online, guys? I mean, the truth is, it's because someone's selling something. And so that's the thing. It's just being aware. It's just having a greater context. It's just being informed and realizing that, yes, someone might be self-pleasuring their way to success right now. And they probably spent, at least 5 years prior to this, building a strong foundation and a lot of momentum energetically to get them here. So now they're just riding the wave. So of course they can self-pleasure their way all the way to kingdom come. All right? Kingdom come, literally. Okay? Of course they can do that, because they've already built this momentum and built a strong foundation. Now they're just seeing the fruits of their labor. Of course. Absolutely, that's how it's going to work. But I think that's not always the story that's told. We have a lot of people out there who will share the full story. Their climb to the top, their struggles in the past, the adversity they've had to overcome. And I think that's important, so that people feel informed as to how they got there. So that way they're not just looking at this flashy light or shiny object and being like, oh, me, that's mine. I want that. Welcome, Melanie.
Hi.
So this is my soul sister, and we wanted to come on here and chat. I know most of you all have already been watching, so you're kind of aware of who Melanie is and what we're doing. And so we're going to be talking about keeping the path grounded and keeping it real, the chopping wood and carrying water of being human and walking the path. So what I was talking about, Melanie, I know you were working hard there to join us, so thank you. I appreciate you making it happen. But what I was kind of on a roll of talking about was sort of how we see online these conversations, or like the marketing really or content about the shiny object, the flashy lights, but
Right.
very rarely do we get the full context of like they've had to chop wood and carry water, do the thing and show up consistently, build the foundation, create the strong momentum and all that stuff to get there, and the
Right.
self-pleasuring your way to, and then scaling that way probably is possible. And yet there was a lot of stuff that they had to do to get there. So that's what I was talking about. I don't know if you have anything to add or if you want to share anything on that particular point.
Absolutely. And first of all, I want to say I love your Captain America. Like,
Oh my God. I love that you noticed that. It's my son's and it's cold in Florida. We were just talking about that too, on weather.
actually, yes. And the thing is this is why I believe I've been to lots of conferences, lots of workshops in my life, trying to think, oh my God, if I do this, I can help myself do this. If I do this, I can help myself do this. And some of them were also about getting your business out there and doing what you got to do. And that's all great. A lot of the workshops have helped me to get out of my comfort zone, which is a good thing because that's a very human thing to do, getting out of your comfort zone. So some of those things have showed me that. But what I understood as well is they give you a lot of those things, but you also got to listen to their story. It's not that a lot of the time that these things just fell in their lap and it magically happened like that. They had to put in the work, do the action, not just sit there and say, okay, I'm going to magically. Manifesting, yes, is a beautiful thing, but you have to really, really say, okay, this is what I'm really going to do, and I'm committed to doing it, even while doing the manifestation. Not sitting and saying, okay, this is going to come to my hands and woo, and and then just go with it. It doesn't work like that. We're humans, so I mean, yeah, we need to take the action and be accountable for what we're going to be doing to
And I love
receive
that
the
you talk about
blessings.
nothing's going to fall into our laps. Like, what is it? The knight in shining armor or whatever isn't going to show up at the door. Like, just
Right,
because we're visualizing him, right? If that's what you're trying to manifest,
right,
the likelihood is that's literally never going to happen. You're going to have to get up at some point, go to the coffee shop, go to the
exactly.
restaurant, the bar, the library, go on the dating app. He's not going to just pop up and show up at your door because you were visualizing and manifesting and self-pleasuring your way to him.
Exactly. And it's funny. Okay, I'm gonna tell you my story a little bit. So my husband passed like 18, 19 years ago. Okay. And I haven't had I liked guys and whatever and then work out, but realizing because I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready emotionally for that. Because I was very much still in that grieving process and that healing process of letting him go and understanding that I don't have to completely let him go. Honoring him as my teacher, honoring him as that of my kids, and still having that space for him that's no one's gonna replace, and that's it. But it's so funny because recently there's a guy I'm learning online, getting my master's in psychology, and at school in my little class here, I was absent, and one of my classmates reached out to me. Talk about not even thinking about that stuff. And we've been talking. Me and this guy have been talking for a couple weeks now, and it's at the point that I'm just like, you know what, whatever. I'm just gonna go with it. I'm not gonna have any expectation or anything, and just be me the whole time and be in that high vibe and still just have fun with everything. And I understand that too. I have seen that many times when you're in your highest vibration, when you're happy and a lot, and that's when a lot of the blessings come through too. It's not when you're there and sitting complaining about every single thing. You're gonna miss a lot of those blessings that are coming towards you because you're too busy in the negative mindset.
Well, you also find that people who, kind of like you're saying, are in the lower vibe mindset or experience or whatever, they just don't have a great quality of life. They're not feeling good about themselves.
Right.
They're actually the ones who are less inclined to do the work, to show
Right.
up, to leave the
Right.
house, to, get their master's degree going or whatever it is,
Right.
and if, and I like your story too, because you also point to the magic that is also possible, because
Yes.
magic is real and miracles are real and they happen every day and people do fall into our laps, and we usually have to be the ones to make the first move. You had to apply for this master's program. That is some real effort. Okay. Then you have to get in. Okay, then you have to show up to class and do all the things, and then, oh, boom, someone falls into your lap. But you
Yeah.
had to put in the work to get there for even the magic to
Absolutely.
happen, you know?
Absolutely.
And then, like you said, oftentimes when we are in that place of like wallowing or self pity or whatever, we're not willing to put in the work or the effort. Like, I'll even, I've had clients as well as just women that I know, kind of similar soul sisters on the path.
Right.
And they'll say, I've been putting in work for years and I'm just not making it. And I'm not, they're not hitting their goals, their milestones, whatever it is that they wanted for themselves.
Mhm.
And when we really get down to it, they haven't done the nitty gritty. They've dreamt about it, right?
Right.
They've talked about it. They've,
Right.
done all the things, right? The meditating and the visualizations and the journaling and the courses and the
Right.
programs. But then I'll be like, okay, so how often do you show up on social media? Oh, like, once every few weeks or so. And it's
Right.
like, well, you see the difference where it's like,
Yeah.
well, you're doing all the work, sure, but you're actually not doing the work. And that's why you haven't seen the results.
Right. Right. It's true. It's true. Because look, I am a perfect example. I'm not even gonna lie and pretend. Because there was a time that I said, yeah, I'm gonna have my business and da-da-da-da, and that's it. And crickets. And crickets. I was like, okay, no. Then I put in more work, do more healing for myself, and say, okay, so then I'm ready this time. I'm gonna do another thing, and it's gonna and a little bit of motion. I said, okay, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. And honestly, Errity, I'm gonna be very honest. It's not until recently, I mean, like within the past 2 months, that I noticed that the thing that I was trying to avoid the most is what my real work is, which is funny too, because the thing is, I have not let myself really breathe for a very long time, right? So at one point I said, well, yeah, I'm a widow, but I don't want to be sitting and thinking, okay, I'm a widow and I want to be a victim. It's not even about that, because my business coach that I do have, when I was having that conversation with her, at the same time my peeps were talking to me, my spiritual team here, and say, Melanie, listen, this is what is going on. It's not that you were a victim. You need to understand that event had you realize how strong you were. It's not about being weak at all going through that. It's about your strength and you showing up. As soon as that happened, my mind and my mindset and my whole life revolved around my kids and being strong and being there for them. So being widow is not a weak thing, and it's not a being a victim thing. It's a lot. You're a warrior. You really are, because you find so much about yourself after that happens. And then I know even as single moms, we get into the point that, okay, it's all about the kids, and then not honoring us as a separate entity as well, which is very important as well too, which I learned. This is all of my learning from all these years at this point. And so that's why the program that I'm doing now is to help widowed moms, to get back to themselves. Outside, they're always going to be moms, but they need to really learn who they are after this loss, because it's a big shift. It's life changing. And it's so important to know who you are, to know where you're going to go afterwards. And that is what I was running from this whole time, saying, yeah, but I don't want to. I don't want to be. I don't want to. I don't want to feel like a victim. But it's not even about that, because I have to understand that event pushed me into a whole nother direction that I probably wouldn't have been in if that didn't happen.
Mhm.
That's the truth of it.
Yeah. Wow. And that's profound work, by the way, and much needed work.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. And I like how you talk too about how we'll be spinning our wheels, like doing all the things. I mean, we kind of all do it anyway because we have to, right? But we'll kind of be telling ourselves we're doing all of it, right? We're doing all the things. We're spinning
Yeah.
our wheels. We're on the hamster wheel, but we're not doing the real work that needs to be done. It's
Right.
usually the one thing that we're avoiding the most. And I've talked about it a lot on my page, but and it's funny because I think sometimes people assume that like I'm just like preaching to them, and it's like no. Everything that I'm sharing is because I have gone through it too. Like, that's why I'm sharing it
Exactly.
because I'll be spinning my wheels, doing all the things, and thinking I'm like, I'm working my ass off. I'm showing up here. I'm showing up there. Well, I am. I mean, I got to give myself credit. And
Right.
it's not what's really needed.
Right.
At the
Right.
end of the day, there's usually something that we're avoiding the most that we don't want to look at, that we don't want to give voice to, that we're scared to touch,
Right.
and then that's the thing that starts shifting everything.
Exactly.
Um, and it sounds like that was what you were led to, and eventually we're all led there, and
Exactly.
oftentimes too is a wound of some kind, maybe even a grieving of some kind or a big fear, and once
Right.
we face it and work through it, we find that everything starts shifting, and it was just that one thing that whole time that was holding us back, and yet we were avoiding it like the plague. I don't want to see
Like the
you like,
plague. Yep.
yeah, like the grim reaper. Everyone avoids the grim reaper, but he usually calls, when there's some work to do.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And that's it. Surrendering to that. Oh, that's very hard for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Surrendering to that. And I tell you, look, I'm gonna tell you something. Um, I have friends that do medicine, plant based medicine. So one
Mm-hmm.
time I did like a little ceremony with a girl. That did not let me escape my fear at all. It came right full frontal, right in front of me. So there was no escaping it. But once I actually gave into it, but I'm going to be honest again. I'm going to be very honest because that's me. I called my son because he has always been my rock. So no, I
Mm-hmm.
have to call. I have to talk to him. I have to talk to him. I have to. And I knew though, as soon as I spoke to him, I was going to be okay. And that's exactly what happened. As soon as I spoke to him, I let go and I surrendered. And it's so funny because in that moment, my mind's eye, what I saw myself is being in a tree and just being nurtured and nestled. And and it's so funny because the next couple days I was doing a lot of self-care for myself too, nurturing myself. And I slept at my best friend's house, and that night, pardon me, and she made me soup and was taking like being in her nurturing state, which is what she likes to do. And I was really calm, but it's like in that moment too that I really came here on earth. I was more grounded, more I'm here, not okay. Okay, no. I'm a lot more present than I used to be after that happening to me. And I wouldn't change it. Will I go back and do it again? Maybe not so quick, but I
You're
believe
telling
that
me.
the lesson was learned, but you know,
And I love how you stated that too, and how once we face the fear, the one thing that we've been avoiding, the one thing we haven't wanted to look at, sometimes that we are completely unaware of, as soon as that happens, it's like there is that freedom, that liberation. We can enter the body again. We're not
right,
disassociating, or like even putting the responsibility in other things. Like again, oh, God or Great Spirit or Cosmos will bring it to me. Like you're saying, it grounds you because you're back in the body. You're able to
right,
be present. You're not living in fear. You're
right,
able to actually face the things and do the
right,
thing.
right,
And even with surrender, it's like such a relevant and even like hot topic, I would say, in the spiritual world. And yet so many people don't know how to do it, like how to actually do it.
right.
And since we're talking about being grounded and practical, sometimes it's forced, like through plant medicine, which I love. Sometimes we got to go the hard way. Some say it's the easy way, but I haven't done it because I know it's the hard way. Um, but even yesterday, it's something as simple as I was just sitting with like a little anxiety in my chest, and I really didn't know why. And I had and I sat with myself, nurtured myself, or whatever. And it wasn't really opening. It wasn't really moving. And of course, my mind is like, oh, Errity, you just got to surrender. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I'm talking to myself. Like, well, I don't know how to do that. And blah, 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 you know, ego. And then there was a moment I was in the grocery store. And so and the point in sharing this too is I want people to know that surrender can look different for everybody. And it's actually very practical too. It doesn't have to be some like abstract, esoteric idea.
Right.
And I was in the grocery store and I just sat with myself while we were waiting on my son's popcorn chicken. And he's just sitting there, you know. And so I was literally, you know, 5-10 seconds, and I realized, holy crap, one of the reasons I've never quote unquote known how to surrender, we'll say that that's even like a skill, which is
Right.
not really, but was because I really never had that growing up, like someone to like be nurturing or hold that space for me to like
Right.
let go. So that insight was immediate, you know. And then I was like, oh wow. So that opened up a little bit, and I was like, I had a little bit of relief. The energy starts moving. And then I started telling myself, you don't have to hold on to it all. You know, you can let it go. You don't have to
Exactly.
be strong. You don't have like the strong thing, right? You don't
Right.
have to hold it all. You don't have to do it all. You don't have to be it all. And what do you know? Everything starts moving. And then, you know, there's a little bit of tenderness, like a little bit of emotion, nothing too crazy, but it just opened up. And then I didn't feel anxious anymore. And I was like, whoa, I mean, it was really just me being present enough to kind of hear the insight and then do the work. And then
Right.
there you go.
Right.
Surrender
I
happened.
love that. I
Yeah.
love that, and it's so true because look, I don't know about you, but I know me when a lot of my feeling just you're too thin skinned, just suck it out and just and then you'll just brush it off. But I've learned that that's not how you do it at all. I believe that, and I wrote this down on my sticky note last night when I did the live. To feel is to heal. Honoring those emotions are very, very important because
Mm-hmm.
they're there for a reason. And
Mm-hmm.
another point that I wanted to bring to area, I believe, and I've grown to realize that our children are the ones that help us to heal. So many times, so many times, they have a total different look of how we are and how we show up to them. And a lot of times, because they're so blunt and so like, okay, no, it's not working. They're our teachers as well.
Mm-hmm.
I've said that so many times, so many times.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I've grown so dramatically. Everyone who follows my page anyway, and if they're watching this, they've sort of followed my journey for years, and I have grown in this, like I can't even tell you. I am such a different person in so many ways. But it's interesting too because I'm more myself. I'm not like less myself and a different person in that
Exactly.
way. I'm more myself. You know, he's brought me home to myself. It's been like the grand homecoming, and not only awakening to really beautiful states of joy and fulfillment and things that or have for at least been for me hard to contact prior to
Right.
my deeper spiritual maturity or awakening and then having my son. Not only that, but like you're saying, the lessons that we learn through our children, you know, the emotional intelligence, the shadow
Yep.
work, all the stuff that like that's the work. Okay, if there is
Yep.
anything, that is the work.
It
Ah,
is. It
yes. Oh yeah. And I know I saw Amanda joined, and her and I have talked as well about how just motherhood is one of the, you know, ultimate spiritual journeys. It is like
is.
the
It is.
heroine's journey, the quest.
It is. It is. And it's
Hmm.
funny. And we each come in different motherly archetypes. I know I am a total nurturer. I'm like
Hmm.
that. I'm like I always say this all the time. I'm like Will Smith on Shark Tales when he said, "Just come here," and wants to wants to hug you. That's me. But I've always been like that. Always, my whole life. Want to take care, and it's okay, and be the babysitter, and and have the kids over, and cook and bake or whatever for them. But that's always been me.
Aw,
Always been me. Always been me.
I'm the complete opposite. LOL. But not really. Like I'm extremely nurturing, and I love spending time with my son, and I love cuddling and snuggling and all that stuff that you're talking about.
Right.
Caregiving. I love cooking too, but I'm like the last person who's gonna have the kids over. It's like if you guys want to bring the dogs over, that's cool. But the children, nah. Like my sister, she cracks me up. She's my twin sister, and
Oh,
she always has like endless slumber parties for these children. I'm like, oh my god. My worst nightmare. Can you guys like see it? Like I go to her house. I'm like, there's 6 children here. Here we go. And she's like, what? She's like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
What are you saying? I'm like, I will take the dogs and they can like live at my house for 2 weeks while you guys don't go on vacation. That's way more heavenly to me than having like 6 kids running around the house.
And you're Capricorn too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, my Capricorn daughter is very much like that. She loves the dogs. We have 2 dash hounds. And those I love, I'm so grateful that we have them because I know that they are all of our emotional support. A lot of times they know when something's going on, they'll go over to you and want to snuggle, because they're dash hounds. They like to snuggle a lot too and be around us. So it's really nice to have them around, and she's very much like that. She said when she's around people that she gets real tired after a while. Real tired after a while. She could be around dogs all day and she's okay. She said, but people kind of tend to drain her a bit.
Yeah. Right? And I've heard that even for like more introverted types, they are energized, like they have to step away from humans a little while to energize. But then animals they're more or less neutral. Yeah, so I've heard of that. I have heard of that. And maybe you could say that many Capricorns are introverted. I don't know if that's a fact, but it could be true. Be true. But something that you said that I thought was interesting too was the feeling to heal.
Right.
And I think that that's also the work that a lot of people avoid, and they'll spin in circles for years just avoiding that aspect. And I think most of the time, I think people just don't know. They don't know any better. They don't know that that's the work. Like you said, they're trying to be strong, trying to put on a brave face or whatever. And I know in a lot of cases, even for me over the years, I haven't even. There have been times I didn't even realize I was sad or like grieving until I kind of sat there long enough to be like, oh, like all this stuff sitting here. And it's interesting too, because I was having this really, intense, even at times, but just thoughtful, just really thorough conversation with people the other day on Facebook about like what is required to heal. What does the actual healing path look like? And people had so many different opinions. Some people were like, they were talking more about kind of like what you're saying, which I also agree with, because that's also part of my philosophy, the feeling. And they were talking about getting messy with your emotions and being raw and, kind of allowing your trauma to be there and speaking for that and, being willing to go there, which is all very real and a part of the path. And then I had also mentioned that so much of the work too, to even get there is to even notice that it's there. It's like to even have the awareness that number one, it's here, but also number two, if you don't have the awareness that it's like inside of you, but not you, you can kind of lose yourself to it and kind of like you were talking about earlier, end up in that low vibe state. You're totally unmotivated. You might end up in depression or grief or whatever. And then you've kind of lost, not that it's okay to kind of lose control sometimes too, but it's like you kind of need both, kind of like the awareness and the willingness to be able to detach just enough to be able to see that's there, but also to be able to feel. And that's hard. It's like learning all this stuff about yourself, be able to connect with these different parts of yourself. I mean, that is the work, and that's hard work.
It is. And I was talking, my best friend and I were talking that time when I did the plant medicine, and we talked a lot, like the day after and whatever. And she said, Mel, it's like you have yourself it's like yourself is like in different compartments. you decompartmentalize. She said, honey, it's all you. All these little pieces that you're separating, just let them connect because it's all you. And I was like, yeah, you're right. So that has also been part of my work after that too. Understanding that it's all one. It's everything is one.
Yes, I love how she says that. So beautiful.
Everything is one. My higher self is me. My inner teen is me. My inner child is me. It's like everything. It's true. And even my mentor had always said, I was saying that too, not too long ago, that a lot of when we do our guided meditations and stuff, it's in our heart already, because that's where we come from. So that's just the gist of it. It is at that point. That's what we are and who we are.
I've been thinking about lately too, right? So there's like all these different aspects of us, but then again, we are the whole of us, the one, the whole, and the all of us. And so it's like both perspectives are so helpful. And that's why I always say to people that like truth is always paradoxical. And there's like one side that's true, and there's at least one other perspective that opposes that that's also true. Like we're one, we're the whole, we're all. And it's also helpful to be able to like you're saying, get to know those parts of yourself, like your inner child. It can kind of bring things into focus, like what does that part of me need? Or like when we bring into focus our higher self, it kind of gets us really cleanly aware of the wisdom that wants to come through that kind of isn't like all the chaotic noise or the messiness of the mind. And like a lot of the work that I've been doing over the past year and a half, which I'm only now able to give words to after the fact, is like kind of getting all my parts in the same area. And I've been telling like even my clients and stuff, it's like you have this stage, this play, and then you have like, some characters are out smoking weed in the back. Some characters are over here kind of knowing their lines. Some people are hanging on the audience. They don't even want to be on the stage. There's some who are up like ready for the limelight. And it's like you have all these different parts of you who are doing different things, being ran by different agendas, having different kind of influences or whatever and drives. And it's like, if that's the case for you too, or you have grief in the back that you haven't looked at, like all of that kind of stuff, it's going to be really hard to create results and outcomes in your life. You got to get kind of everybody on board, follow the same script to be able to move towards what you want, that the integration or alignment or whatever. And one way that's really helped me conceptualize is kind of looking at that, like, oh, my inner child, making sure its needs are met, and what does it truly desire for itself? And as a mother, that part of me, and also my grief, and like all the different pieces. But once you start kind of looking at all those pieces and recognizing all of those, it's like things just start coming together, and things start unfolding, and energy starts moving, and grief starts releasing, and all these things start happening. It's like this whole domino effect that then you kind of start being able to move forward and do things and create things and experience some results too.
Absolutely. I love how you said about that, how your analogy to like it's a stage play. You have all these, it's true though. It's true. You have to get everyone on the same page and say, okay, we're going to do the work. We all, as a collective, are going to do the work. Not just, okay, this part and then leave everything else, or just do these, just pick and choose 1 and 2 parts and say, and everything will fall into place. That's not how it's going to work.
Right. Because there's some parts of you who are like ready to go, ready and willing, and there's the other part of you, the inner child, that might be scared, right? Because it's scared of rejection or it's been hurt in the past. And there's the part of you that's still like grieving from a lost relationship, we'll say. And there's a part of you again who wants the limelight, but there's a part of you that is also scared of success. Can I manage the success? Like, can I trust myself with the consequences of success? You have all these different parts. And if you're not even aware of what's happening, most of the time they're taking you down a back alley. You're not, nothing's happening on the stage. It's empty, and there is no like, what is it called? There's no Broadway show happening. All right, we're all just back alley kind of praying, nothing's going on.
It's true. It's true.
So let's see if you guys have any other questions or comments that you want to bring into the conversation today. I really wanted to, again, make truth sexy again, where it doesn't always have to be the pearls and lace and the bells and whistles and like daydreamy, and it's like all the like living life as it is sexy. Living life connected to the earth and to the ground, the whole chopping wood and carrying water is sexy. I know that there are some days I'm doing dishes and I'm totally turned on and feeling alive, and there's other days where I'm just so grateful and content and fulfilled just by bringing the recycling down to the driveway, down the driveway to the edge of the street. I know that I feel so alive and happy and joyful when I am making dinner. Even with my son, putting him to bed at night, it's so pleasant, so sweet, so precious, so simple. But all these kind of moments, these simple pleasures or simple moments that we kind of make out to be as boring or uneventful or unexciting or unsexy, like even just the things like again, we talk about the 7-figure year all over the internet we see now, or self-pleasuring or whatever. I have no idea. Oh, okay. Good, Amanda. Thank you. Yes. Thank God. I don't know what was going on, but it's like we think that life has to be some fucking fantasy for it to matter. Like life has to be some fucking iconic fantasy for us to like actually enjoy it, or for us to be fulfilled by it. If we're not literally like living on the beach, sipping mimosas, doing the hottest dude on the street, well, maybe he's on the street, maybe you don't want to say that, but But you know what I mean, and flip this if you are otherwise and you want it to be a hot girl, it doesn't matter. But it's like life has to be that, and we have to be like, again, a remote working CEO. But we kind of expect this life, life to be this really big fantasy. And then if it's not, we're like, oh, him and Han, and oh, that stinks, or that sucks, or whatever. And it's interesting that because of the messaging, because of mainstream media, because of what we see and what we've consumed, we think that life has to be this way. And if it's not, that we're unfulfilled, we're unsatisfied. That's all conditioning. Once all that shit's cleared off the table, and that's why I focus so much on that freedom and liberation from the American dream, freedom and liberation from the kind of the big sales stuff that most people talk about. It's not because I don't want those things. Like, of course, clearly, I want most of the things that most people want, right? We all want a satisfying relationship. We all want a career that we're passionate about that gives us freedom. I mean, we all want all of our needs met and be able to do some, meet our dreams and desires and whatever those are for each of us. Duh. And if we're so detached to those things, we're going to find that it's extremely difficult to enjoy our lives now. It's very difficult to enjoy the journey on the way there. And it's very difficult to just be here and experience what matters, and to experience meaning in the moment, and to enjoy doing dishes. Those things become sort of monotonous and mediocre to people. And that's so unfortunate, because this life has so much to offer. Like there's, if you've seen the movie Soul or Pocahontas, right, you're seeing how even nature, is alive. You guys know these things, but how often do all of us actually fully be there and appreciate it and are living in gratitude because of it? I think many of us here, but I'm kind of talking about, mass conditioning, mass humanity, they're not. I think we can kind of get lost in all of these like big, again, flashy lights, shiny objects, and then not be able to just really settle in and open up to what's already here, to actually enjoy our lives, to find the meaning that's already here, the abundance that's already available. Most of us, I'm not going to say all of us, and I recognize how privileged we are, but in the Western world, most of us have our needs met. Okay? Most of us even have some wants met. We may not have already accomplished all of our life's dreams, but we're not supposed to all right now. That's our life's work. But I was talking about how we kind of like always are grasping for the next big thing, the cool thing, the big thing, and how like when we start grounding it and getting real and taking responsibility and enjoying the moment, all the things we're sort of alluding to, that life becomes really good. It's fulfilling. So all the things that we thought we wanted this whole time, but it was always here all along.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
They say that all the time too. Even about love, the love that you're looking for outside is not what you're really looking for. It's within you.
Yes.
And it is when you really accept yourself completely. I mean, without any questions asked. It's very fulfilling. Very fulfilling.
Mm-hmm. It is. And maybe that's some of that inner work like you were talking about, and we were both talking about too with the play, like getting everyone on board, kind of being aware, feeling to heal, and you find like, holy shit, life's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Melanie. Is there anything else you wanted to make sure we shared here today before we head out? Are you feeling pretty good? What do you think?
No, I'm really good. I enjoyed our talk actually.
Me too. I hope everyone else enjoyed it despite some of the techie difficulties there.
Yeah,
but hey, it's live, baby.
Hey, Mercury retrograde. We're in Mercury retrograde too, right?
That's true. It is Mercury retrograde. Well, it's so interesting too, because I don't know who else, if anyone else experiences this, but I always love Mercury retrograde because it's like so good for my soul for whatever reason. Things go well, smoothly. Everyone else is no. And so then I asked someone one time, I said, why? It was an astrologist that I know, and I was like, why in the world do I enjoy a Mercury retrograde? Nobody else does. And they said, if you're born during a Mercury retrograde, you're actually more likely to kind of be in alignment during it.
Ah, that's interesting.
Right?
My planet is Mercury because I'm Gemini. So a lot of times there's things that come, but it's not harsh for me, and I don't look at it as being harsh either. To me, it's like, okay, it's like a review, and I'm okay with it. I don't have any issues.
Me neither. Well, I think it's because me and you were talking about what we're talking about, where we've kind of opened up to life and we're here and we can enjoy the moment. And I'm not saying we're perfect and everything's like gravy 24/7, but isn't that the point? Like to be able to enjoy life even if it's not perfect?
Exactly. You make it perfect in your own way.
Yeah. It's that responsibility piece, which, I know you guys maybe didn't hear a lot of that, but we were kind of talking before we went live, and she was kind of talking about it's ultimately up to you. Like, we're the ones who have to do the thing. We're the ones that have to show up. We're the ones who have to take the action. We're the ones who have to do our part. And we're the ones who make it all happen and who decide how it feels, really.
Exactly. Of course, look, we have our spiritual team and everything, but ultimately on earth, we have to allow them to help us, but it's actually us doing what we need to do with their help. And your ancestors and whoever, whatever spiritual people that you got on the other side helping you. And then the people here too. That's another thing. But I also want to say, yeah, you have your spiritual team, but remember that God or spirit provides you with people here that are tangible too. And don't forget about them, because they are there in numbers. It's are you aware that that's what they're here for you? And this is another thing I just want to touch real quick. I was an only child for my mom. I have two sisters from my dad, but I never grew up with them, right? So I always wanted siblings. I wanted to have a sister, and I love how God universe works. That I have soul sisters, and I couldn't ask for anyone better than them. You know what I mean? So it's how you look at things is another thing too. How are you looking at it?
Oh, absolutely. And I like that you brought up, we're not doing it alone. Ultimately we're responsible, but we're not doing it alone. And we don't have to do it alone. And we have support, and like being able to see it though, like you just said. And use it, utilize it, ask for help, whether that's praying to God, Great Spirit, Cosmos, higher power, or asking help from your guides, or whatever it is, right? Asking for help from a friend, because in the physical, God, higher power, whatever you call it, works through other humans most of the time, right? Like you said, the knight in shining armor, milk delivery man, whoever doesn't show up at the front door. I mean, well, he might, but they're going to use a person, okay? The person is going to come in, the opportunity is going to show up, and then you have to say yes and follow through.
Exactly. That is the key.
Yes.
Following through and accepting it.
Yes. Accepting it, because it can be a hard pill to swallow. I would say that most of humanity, if we're honest, most of humanity is still waiting for someone to save them. They're still waiting for someone to show up, for something to show up, for something to be revealed. It's all about what's going to happen outside of me. And for some people, it's even further than that. It's like, oh, well, F this, life hasn't done this for me, and so-and-so never showed up for me, and my parents didn't show up for me. And so it's like you can be in that space, or you can just still kind of be waiting. And those people, for the most part, they never experience what they want in their lives again, because they haven't taken responsibility, which is the first step before you can even take the action or follow through.
Right. That's true. And then my question to them would be, how are you showing up for you? How are you showing up for you? Because your parents, they're your parents, and if you're a grown person, how are you showing up for yourself? It's no longer your parents' responsibility at that point in time. It's you. How are you showing up for you?
Yes. And that reminds me of the grocery store example too earlier, where I had this insight of, well, no one had ever like held me in that nurturing way or held space that I could let go. And then it was like the insight was there, and like some people might take that insight, right, and then start ruminating over, oh, my parents and F this and F that, whatever. But I realized right there in that moment, oh, it's my job to learn how to hold me. Maybe no one ever did, but here it is, and here I am, and it's my job. And you know what? It freaking worked, and of course it always does. But that's the thing, right? It doesn't matter how our childhood went. And yes, trauma matters, and the experiences we all had matter. Abuse matters. And you come to a point on your journey that if you don't take the reins back, for your life, nothing will ever change.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're not claiming the responsibility of your own happiness at that point. You're trying to say that you need others to make you happy, to make you feel happy, and that's not it at all.
Yeah, exactly. It's real. Let me check these final comments here. Okay, so Allison, I've been watching Touched by an Angel lately. Loved that show. I've never seen it. Have you seen that, Melanie? Touched by an Angel?
I talk to my peeps all the time.
Yeah. Consent. Allison, I don't know what context that came from, but I'm sure I agree with you. Totally agree. Fuck this world. LOL. Funny thing is, when you show up for you, people meant to stay end up showing up too. Yes, absolutely. When we start
Yep.
showing up for ourselves, other people do too. Life starts showing up for us too. It's all that great giant reflection, which is a whole other conversation. Maybe that'll be another conversation with someone else talking about the community and
Right?
reflection. But well, thank you so much, Melanie.
Thank you. It was fun.
It was. And thanks everybody for being here. I'll be
Thank
doing
you.
these pretty regularly, every week-ish, and maybe Melanie will be back again if she wants to come back around. But
Sure.
otherwise, I'll be doing the White Hot Wisdom, and we're going to make truth sexy again, people.
Oh, yeah.
All right. See you guys
Okay.
later.
Bye.
Bye.